All right. Hi, Rabeea. Thank you so much for joining me here today on Vonvo.com. It's our pleasure to have you to discuss not really only just the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, but more so the events that took place this past Thursday or Friday in Jerusalem at the President of the United States, President Obama's speech in Jerusalem. Before we begin, right now, today's March 24th, 2013. Before we get our conversation started, I just wanted to go over two quick important rules that we have here at Vonvo. The first is that right now this conversation is being recorded, and after the recording is completed, we'll be uploading the discussion to the internet to our YouTube channel. Is that okay with you?
Yeah, it's okay, fine.
Great. And then on top of that, here at Vonvo, we're all about our conversations staying both civil and valuable. We don't want there to be any personal attacks against anyone if by any chance someone happens to join the room. So, are you fine with that ground rule as well?
Yeah, of course.
All
Sure.
right, great. So, just to begin, for anyone who's watching this video right now, and for anyone who watches this video going to the future, would you mind just giving a quick background of yourself and why you're so passionate about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict?
How
Rabia, are you there?
okay. Yeah, I'm there. You are waiting to someone to start asking, or
No, no,
I
no.
should
I
start?
was I was asking you. Would you mind just giving our viewers inside the audience right now a quick background of yourself and why you're so passionate about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict?
Okay. First of all, I want to introduce myself. My name is Rabeea Eid. I'm from Elabun village in Galilee. I'm a student in University of Haifa. I study political science. This is my last year. I hope so. I also work as a journalist in a weekly newspaper called Fasl Maqal and an online website called Arabs48.com. I'm political active also in NDA, National Democratic Assembly, a political party, Palestinian political party in Israel. That's the main thing that we struggling for or fighting for, or our belief is that the state of Israel should be a country for all its citizens, not a Jewish country, because we see there is you can't make a democracy by a Jewish ethnic country. Uh, Another thing we want that Arab minority in Israel have their own, cultural control and arrangement, like that we put the material and the stuff that we want to study in the schools about the historical story of us as a Palestinian and also as a part of from the Arab nation and from the Islamic culture. I'm an active since like 2006 um, in many places, university, in my village, and other places. Uh, and For me, it's the main thing that I work for. Work in is about the Palestinian identity for the Arabs in Israel, because I think it's a very important thing, not just to in face of Israel, also in face in our society to be people, and this is a very important thing that otherwise we will be Muslims and Christian and Jews and violence will will rise in the society. So it's very important.
Right. So, can you kind of, just for the people who may not know, can you kind of give us a background of exactly? It was on this past Friday, right? Or was it Thursday, where Obama had his speech and you attended, and you midway through the speech, you yelled out some comments. Was that on Thursday or Friday?
On Friday.
Right. And so, can you kind of
On Thursday.
Right. So, can you give us just a quick background of exactly what that speech was supposed to be all about, and where was it, and then we'll get into more of like your comments, which you made afterwards.
Okay. Speech of President Obama in Jerusalem. It was in the Binyani Alma in Jerusalem. It's called the Building of the Nation. Uh, I was there. The speech Obama made me upset because he started his speech by talking about the historical story of Zionism here in Palestine and about their right to be here and to have their own Jewish ethnic country on Palestine. Otherwise, we didn't talk about the right for Palestinian people that they are struggling since 1948. And we did talk about the right of the refugee to come back to their own lands that were expelled in the Nakba. He talked about democracy and justice, and he said that he came here for democracy and justice, but at the same time he said that he supports Israel as a Jewish country, and the Palestinians should also, on the world, recognize Israel as a Jewish country. To me and to others, was also in the building. Uh, this is something not acceptable because we are the Palestinians in Israel are 20% from all the citizens, and Jewish countries that means something against our rights and also our existence in these lands. And we are here native people, native inhabitants, and we didn't come to here. They come to here. So this thing is talking about Jewish country and in the same time talking about democracy and justice makes me upset. So I stand up and shout. Uh, I told them President Obama, did you came to for him to make peace or to support Israel and to give Israel more weapons? And if you talk about justice, how you support the Jewish country. Also, I asked him who killed Rachel Corrie. And Rachel Corrie is, I think most of you know, is an American activist, peace activist that was in Gaza and was killed by Israelis while she was trying to prevent destroying house in Rafah.
Right.
And the last thing I asked him before the security guys came and took me out, that President Obama see the apartheid wall when he came from Ramallah to Jerusalem. So these three things I mentioned in the speech
Right.
to Obama, and I think it was very important.
So your main just and if you could just I don't know where your microphone's located, but I mean I hear you. But if I don't know if some of the audience members might not hear you that clearly, I definitely hear you fine when you speak up and you're right near the microphone. But basically, in the end, you were trying to convey to President
Yeah,
Obama that you wanted to know if he came here for peace or to give more weapons to Israel or just to support Israel. And you also wanted to know about Rachel Corrie, is that correct? And her death. And you also, before you were dragged out by security, the third thing
yeah.
you asked was regarding the apartheid wall. And those were like the three major things that you tried getting across uh, before security dragged you out. Is that correct?
And also in the beginning, asking about uh, how democracy can be at the same time in Jewish country.
Right. Right. So, what exactly were you trying to, what sort of point were you trying to prove when, um, you know, when you decide to ultimately speak up? I mean, were you trying to, uh, you speak out for the Palestinian people or strictly yourself? Can you kind of elaborate where this all came from?
Well, I think what I did is I tried to uh, raise a voice that no one talk about it in this, visiting Obama here in Israel, Palestine. Uh, it's the voice of the people, the Palestinian people, and also I think there is also Israelis and other people around the world have the same idea. What I say that because the visit of Obama was like everything is normal. We have to do like this, like this. But the basic thing of, this conflict he didn't mention and didn't talk about the occupation, the injustice for the Palestinians in Israel, the settlement. Yani, Obama talked about the violence of settlers, but he didn't talk very clearly against the settlements in the West Bank. And as we all know that the settlement is not legal by the United Nations decision, and also he didn't talk about what's happening in Jerusalem. He didn't talk about the hunger strike of Palestinian prisons, the Israeli prisons, a lot of things. That these things is the important thing or the basic of any talking about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict.
Right. So why do you think he ultimately chose not to speak about a variety of these things? Because I guess I want to say that I listened to the speech and he brought up certain items regarding Palestinians and their treatment, but you ultimately probably believe that there was a lot of stuff left out. So why do you think he left a lot of that stuff out?
Because I think if Obama is talking about two states solution for two-state for two people, the two-state solution. And if you look these days, this solution and somehow is not possible if you want to make a real justice and to talk about the Palestinian rights. So two-state solution is these days is also an Israeli solution because they can see, they can put the Palestinian in a, a small, somehow a country, but this country is under Israeli control. Uh, they can't have an army. There's a lot of issue about the water, about borders, about the settlement. So they're trying to do something like to do peace. The Palestinian wants a country, and in the past Israel was against that. Now they want that for their security, uh, but not in how the Palestinians want it. So Obama, he as he spoke in the speech, and before, as we all know that he is not like uh, with the two parts of the conflict. He's more with Israel, and he say that, and we saw this in this visit and before, and when Benjamin Netanyahu came to the Congress, and there is uh, importance for United States to support Israel in the Middle East, and as a colonialism country, it's important for United States that to support the policy of Israel in the Middle East.
Right. Right. So, ultimately, before you got into that auditorium for that speech, did you already have planned to, speak up and say something? Can you kind of walk us through that process? Um, I guess the night before the speech, and then,
Actually, actually, no, I was feeling like everyone else, and as I told the speech with me upset, and I so that I have to say something. Uh, I thought that Obama is because now his second time as a president, so you will be more like free from uh, political pressure from lobbies in the United States. So he can be this time more you know uh, uh, easy with dealing with this issue and be a little bit more uh, justice dealing with this issue. But I didn't see this.
so, so,
So
so there was nothing, before the speech happened. There was really nothing that was going through your head that was making you think that you were gonna stand up and say something. I mean, it really just kind of happened on the spot.
yeah,
And so,
yeah.
what exactly, at what moment in that speech were you just like, now it's time to like actually say something? Can you kind of walk us through that? When did that what exactly sparked you to just say something?
I think it's like after 15 or 20 minutes from because in the beginning he started talking about the personal story of the life of Jewish, to come and to have their own Jewish ethnic country, and the same story of Zionist. And then we talk about that there is a new generation in Israel and United States, young spirits. I think in this moment I stand up and shout and start talking when he talked about the new generation.
Right. So what exactly happened after you had yelled out your comments? Can you walk us through what happened afterwards and what's kind of taken place since the shout
Yeah,
out?
yeah. The security guys came and took me out, and they told me that I'm arrested, and they threatened me and used a little bit, violence with me. And after that, I think there is a journalist from Fox News came out and saw us, and she asked me what I said there exactly because she didn't hear. And I told her, and then I gave her my details, and she took a photo for me while I was arrested by the Israeli security guys. And then when they saw there is a drone coming and taking photos, I think um, someone of the security guys, I think it's the both of them, told them that deal with him easy. We don't want to make a story from him now. There's a journalist and Obama, so just release him and took him out. And then they took me out. Also, I found in my way Israeli journalist working TV. So I also talked with him and give him my name and what's happening and what happened. And in this way, my story go out outside the street and the whole, and everyone know about it. So the policeman just checked my ID and released me. And after that, I left the place.
Well, what were you trying? Were you asked? So so what I was going to ask you next is one thing that I found intriguing, and it's kind of ironic that you're on Vonvo right now talking about it, and I want to ask you this question because I've been meaning to, is like during the speech there was a, I don't know if it was after you had left, after you were escorted out by security or not, but there was a point in the speech where Obama was talking about like how younger generations, like these are the debates that we need to be having, trying to resolve conflicts like this. It needs to be the new generation that comes up and has these discussions with one another to resolve these sorts of conflicts. And here you were yelling out your thoughts and opinions and perspectives for that audience to hear at that moment. And I wanted to find out, do you think it's a bit hypocritical that people such as yourself, activists such as yourself, when you want to raise your voice, you're immediately shut down and can't be heard? Can you kind of go into that, and what are your thoughts on that?
Well, Well, I think what I did is very important, and I'm proud of it because my voice reached all over the world today after I got the big air, and after they released me, like in after half an hour, my phone started ringing and it didn't stop until today. Tens of uh, uh, journalists calling and doing interview. Uh, so, as I said before, there is something that had to be said in this visit. And no one talk about it. And at least I, in a simple way, I success to raise this voice, and I uh, uh, after 3 days or 4 days from the trip, how I can see now that this voice now is everywhere and everyone talk about it, and this is an important thing because I didn't see Obama talked about it effectively. Uh, because of this, I decided to stand up and to talk about it.
Right. And so,
Sometimes this way, it could be this way because we are not, uh, a perfect situation. We are not in a perfect situation. We are here. There is an occupation. There is an injustice. So this is a simple way. I mean, do something very, very big, and I just stand up and throw out, and that's it.
so one of the people inside of the text chat, and we can start seeing, what some of the audience members have to say. They wanted to ask, how did it feel on sub? Asked, how did it feel after what happened to you, heckling President Obama after their speech? It takes a man of great willpower to do something like this. I mean, what exactly was the feeling that you had immediately after, after doing what you did?
When the policeman came, and took me out, right? You mean?
Yeah, but so like internally, like what feeling were you having uh, right after you had done it, and after I guess things had sort of settled down a bit? I mean, people want to know exactly what was going on inside of you.
Yeah. Well, I actually, mm, I didn't feel bad. I think I did something important. In the beginning, there is, confused uh, feelings, but that I step on the President of the United States. Uh, but after I been released, was comfortable to me, and actually I was happy. Uh, Not just journalist people called me. It's like hundreds of uh, people called me also, thanking me and telling me that you did the right thing and we support you and you raised up our voice and you are a hero. So this is an important thing. I succeed to make to make some some action or move in this water.
Right. So a question that I had when watching the replay of the speech was a lot of the times during the speech, whenever the Palestinian cause was brought up, there seemed to be a lot of cheering inside the audience. And I don't know how often that took place before you had left or got escorted out. But were you surprised at how much cheering was taking place every time the Palestinian cause was brought up? Because it seemed a little surprised, from
Actually, wasn't surprised because these audience coming to hear Obama, and some of them is, deal with Obama also as a star, a Hollywood star. Uh, no, I wasn't surprised. They are seeing the president of the biggest country in the world, and Obama, and a black, the first black president in the United States, and he's a little bit young, so.
right. So let's just see what I'm seeing.
Actually, I was surprised. They told me that after when I left, some of the people stand up and shout "Free Palestine" from the audience.
Really. So that was surprising too. Um, did you hear about why do you think? So I'm looking at some of the questions inside the text chat, and I'm just trying to see which one sort of seems best to ask you about it. Free Palestine. So did you end up going back to what? Did you end up going back and watching the full speech and like hearing yourself, uh, kind of say what you said, and then hearing the rest of the speech? What was like your reaction? Have you had a chance to rewatch the speech after it's taken place?
Not in the same day because how was the situation after doing this thing. But the next day, I actually read the whole speech, and I noticed in the end of his speech, he talked also, as I said before, about the violence of the settlers and the importance of living together and all of these things. But to me, it didn't talk to me as a Palestinian because if he is really wants to stop the violence of settlers, he can do this, as he can support Israel with weapons. So, but he don't do this. And the problem is not the violence of settlers, the problem is the settlement. Look at it.
So, Piona or no Poloni inside the text chat asks you, Rabeea, why do you care about what Obama has to say about you or Israel or any people in the region? Shouldn't you be concerned to talk with other people in the region instead of giving attention to Western imperialists like Obama? What's your thoughts on that?
Because everyone in the region is interested in what Obama is going to say and to do here. And if we accept this or not, the United States is an important country, and the effect on the conflict, and she is one of the players in this conflict, and an important player because the United States is the friend of Israel and most friend of the country with Israel. So this is important, and this is reflects on our life. I also at the same time talk with other people in the region, and my struggle is also here in this country, uh, in the university, in my village, in different activities. And this voice also, I, I say everywhere, every time I had a chance. But there was an opportunity this time to take this voice outside of Israel also, because all the world, all media talks about this visit. So I see that they should know also about what's happening here, really what's happening.
Right. And so one of the people inside the text chat wanted to find out more specifically from you. You mentioned that there was, they were after you were dragged out. The security guards, were being violent with you. Can you be more specific with exactly what they did?
They put my hand in, what can I call it, and they start, beating me and my head like this, and when they hurt me, and they threatened me and told me, wait, when we get to the car, you will see what will happen with you now. And I was had a chance that American journalist came out and started taking photos with a talk.
Right. So I have I have a question for you. Ultimately, you feel like your voice, you know, uh, wasn't heard even on that day. I mean, you got heard by yelling out at the president your real thoughts and reactions and feelings. And ultimately, I mean, do you feel like Palestinians in general and yourself are just not being heard as a whole group? And I mean, do you think platforms such as a Vonvo are a place where your voices can be heard in regards to real serious conflicts like this?
Yeah, of course. I mean, the most important uh, media stations, uh, they don't reflect what's happening as it should be. Uh, I will give an example for that. If Gilad Shalit, for example, all the world talk about Gilad Shalit, and he's one person. Uh, I I can hear the people here if they can name just 10 people from the 5,000 Palestinians in the Israeli prison. So you can see how is the situation. That one person every know one know about him, every day they talk about him, but there is thousands of Palestinians. We don't know their names. And these thousands they have families and have kids. There is kids under 18 in the Israeli prison. Women they have their babies in the prison. People sick, uh, people like more than 20 years and they are in the prison. So I think also in the media there is no justice. Not all the media, the important one, uh, especially in the United States. think today is that the new media is taking a place, and you can anyone wants to send. There is uh, some pages on Facebook or Twitter, or at least people you can talk with them and can see what know what is happening. And this is an important thing. I think that people in the United States should know more about the policy about outside the United States. Maybe Obama is good inside, I don't know, but outside he's very bad. And a lot of money going for weekends for the friends of America, like Israel, every year. And this money is from the taxes from the American people, tax from the American people.
So why don't you think that Palestinians are being heard throughout the media? What do you think is the reasoning behind this, and what do you think needs to be done differently in order for your opinions to be heard?
Well, I think there is more than one reason. First, we have to know this media station, what is the agenda and the policy of this station, and who is working there, and why this news is like this, but other news is like that. So all of these things we have to know. I don't know why and for example, or Fox News, or I don't know, other more like with Israel. I don't know exactly, but as I said, we have to click why. And I think there is lobbying and all of them that support also Israel, from outside Israel. I think also one of the reasons the weakness of the Palestinians after Oslo, because I think Oslo was very bad for the Palestinians, and we start to think different before Oslo, and to act different. Also, the Palestinian leaders, maybe they don't put their importance for media outside, because you need to work on this issue, and not just to let it as by itself.
Great. And some people inside the text chat are curious. They just want to know, for clarification. So, are you considered an Israeli citizen? You mentioned you go to school at University of Haifa. So, what exactly is your citizenship?
Well, I am a Palestinian, have an Israeli ID, and so for you to know more about this, at 48, most of the Palestinians were expelled by the Zionist movement and become a refugee, but they're still in Palestine, like 100,000 and 150,000 Palestinians, and were expelled like 800,000. So the Palestinians who still and they still they become citizens of Israel, and they had the Israeli ID. And for to be more specific, this is was a thing that Israel had to do to accept there in the United States, that to give the citizenship for all the people in, you know, these lands. Uh, for example, my village, Laboon, that is now I'm talking with you from it, were expelled also to Lebanon. But our village came back. The success came back in 1940 after a few months. And also, my village was expelled after Israel were established.
Right.
After like 5 months. So you can see there is also villages were expelled after like 1 year or 2 years, or 5 years. And there is a refugee, Palestinian refugee, have the Israeli ID. They can go back to their villages. Uh, that these villages are like 1 kilo or 2 kilometers from where they live.
Right.
And if they go back, the demographic situation doesn't change. But as we can see, it's not the conflict is not just the demographic, also about the land. Israel took most of our land. We are now 20% from the people in Israel. The Palestinians is 20%. We have like 2% from the land.
Right. So here's what I was going to say, Rabeea. We've 1 second. We covered obviously a few different items, and I mean there's obviously so much more that we can speak about. But we've been talking, for almost an hour. And so what I was going to say is, perhaps maybe we can jump back on Vonvo in a few days, as we talked about, and we can cover some more of this topic and everything, because there's so much to go over. So my last quickly, the one quick question I wanted to ask you, and then I have one sort of closing question, was how exactly did you get into the conference for the speech? How did that process work?
The university, this speech was for the students, basically. The university sent an email for the students, anyone want to take a part. So they showed like number of people they sent, and you got a ticket, and you can enter. Anyone have a ticket to enter to the speech.
Right. So okay, cool. So last question I was going to ask you was, ultimately, what message would you like to send to the world about what you did, and what you were standing up for that day, for anyone who watches this video going to the future?
Okay, I think what I did is very small and simple thing, but it's very important. And if you look at the context of this speech and visit, and the context of the political situation and the conflict in general, I think my message for the world that this situation can't be continue like this. The Palestinian is struggling for like more than 5 years, and their rights is recognized by the uh, by the UN, and Israel can't continue this way by occupation and killing the people and taking land and taking storing water and building walls, doing wars. These things should be tough. And if we are talking now, we have a free world for free countries. These countries should act and do something. And these countries won't act until the people in these countries make pressure on their government to do real thing. I believe that this conflict can be ended by ending the occupation, and I believe also that two-state solution won't work. I believe in one-state solution, one democracy uh, for Palestinians and Jews. The Jews can have also their own privacy, and the Arabs maybe in cultural things. Uh, but in this case, everyone is equal. And of course, the important thing, the basic thing of this conflict is the refugees. That refugees have the right to come back all the time into their home. If they don't want, they like this. No one else is like this. And my message is that we have to work a lot and more because
Can you say that? Can you say that a little bit louder?
yeah, I say that we have to work more and a lot because this conflict is not easy, and we are facing on a big a big a big country and a big system with a lot of power. But we have to read the history now and know the history that there is no powerful country or empire stay forever. And I thank you everyone for being and hearing me.
Yeah. No, Rabeea, thank you so much for joining us here today on Vonvo.com. You were awesome, and thanks so much for sharing, your story. And we can definitely arrange, if you enjoyed your time today, arrange for another discussion going forward where you can, continue to reach more people with, the words that got cut off on Thursday, but now actually have a real chance to explain yourself, today.
Yeah, of course, I want to thank you for doing this conversation and give me the chance to talk and to discuss people very clearly and quiet
And without the security guard,
way.
without the security guard.
Yeah, without security guys.
Yeah.
And I hope we can continue and make an effect.
Great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your time, and we'll look forward to having you back again. And it's our pleasure to have you today. Okay.
Thank you much.
All right. Thank you so much.